Want to welcome in Julie Fishman Rayman now. She's the Managing Director for Policy and Political Affairs for the American Jewish Committee. Julie, thanks for making the time.
Thank you, Natasha.
I do want to start with your reaction to Laura's reporting there. What does this day of Jihad mean for Jewish people around the world?
Well, first, I want to echo what you said, that we can be grateful that there has not been violence. But I think we also need to be really clear that just because there's not violence doesn't mean that there's not an impact on Jewish communities. Just the fact that schools have closed, Jewish schools, synagogues closing, streaming their Shabbat services online instead of having people come in person is a tremendous impact. And it causes a lot of fear throughout the community. And let's be clear, for the most part, these are already institutions that are supported, that are buttressed, that are secure. For anyone who hasn't been inside of a synagogue recently, almost every synagogue in the United States, before you are allowed to enter, you go through a metal detector like you're going to the airport. So they're already very secure. The fact that then they're taking this extra precaution to close shows the real credible fear that a lot of people are feeling. And of course, we want people to protest. We want them to have that freedom of speech. But let's not be confused that no violence doesn't mean no impact.
Okay, I appreciate that. And your group sent out this tweet saying the war is not about Jews versus Arabs or Islam versus the West or Israelis versus Palestinians, but about defeating the sheer evil that is Hamas. Can you expand on this? What do you think is important for us to not lose sight of, especially today?
Hamas has shown the world who they really are. And even the segment that you had before, the segment about Times Square, talking about how Israel issued a warning and said, citizens of Gaza, evacuate, move south. Hamas told them, stay in your homes. Hamas is using them as shields, as insurance against unnecessary military action, with no regard for life. And so, one of the things that we're trying to do, is keep that focus on the sheer brutality that has come out of Hamas, that continues to come out of Hamas. The veil that Hamas is not a heartless, callous terror group, that veil is lifted. There should be no more confusion about that. But we do want to make sure that that does not mean that people are holding the Palestinian people in their entirety to account. That's not fair. That they're holding Arabs or Muslims to account. That's especially unfair. And just as Jewish communities across the United States are fearing for their safety and security, a lot of Muslim Americans are as well. And so just as the mayor was saying that we have to be mindful of threats against synagogues and mosques, that's not equivocation. That's not moral equivalency. That's a reality. When hate and fear come together, they create a really powerful cocktail. And for the safety of American citizens and for the maintenance of our values, we need to be on guard against that.
I appreciate you speaking to both sides there. And I know your job is to work with lawmakers and to advocate for the Jewish community. Do you think that President Biden, that Congress, or even presidential candidates have done enough at this point to show their support? What more, if anything, should they be doing?
I think that they are doing, especially the administration at this point in time, as Congress continues to sort of struggle getting their procedural act together. But the administration is absolutely doing everything that they can in their power to support Israel, to get Israel the munitions, the armament, the replenishments of Iron Dome, everything that they possibly need in this moment. And there's a strong commitment there. The one piece that I think is the hardest piece of all of this is the situation of the hostages. And we know that there have been 120 civilians taken, abducted from Israel into Gaza from all nations, right? We know there may be as many as 20 Americans, a number of Israelis, but virtually every continent on the globe is represented in the faces of those hostages. And that is the trickiest piece of this, especially as Israel intensifies their military efforts to make sure that the hostages are protected, that there is a a pathway for their evacuation, for their emancipation, for them to get the medical care that they need. There's an American hostage, Hirsch Goldberg Poland, who was taken. He was at the music festival on Saturday. His arm was blown off by a grenade. He fashioned a tourniquet out of his T-shirt. And managed to stay alive. The last ping from his cell phone was from inside of Gaza. So the more that we can speak to not just the American hostages, but all of the hostages that are there, do everything that we can, not just as Americans, but as global citizens, to raise awareness, to get them out immediately, and with the medical attention that so many of them will need, that is vital.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.